here in the United States, the San Francisco Bay Area's tech industry is facing challenges. Huge growth during the pandemic and then massive layoffs. But now the region is reinventing itself. Mark New takes us to a place called Cerebral Valley.
Even as layoffs batter the tech industry, in recent months, San Francisco Bay Area startups have managed to raise roughly a third of all money for artificial intelligence ventures. The neighborhood of Hayes Valley has led the charge, earning the nickname Cerebral Valley.
Cerebral Valley, that area in Hayes Valley, that whole area is growing. I mean, we're talking about 50 to 100 events that are going on every month on this topic, and we're in the middle of this AI craze, and it kind of feels like 1999, right at the beginning, where everybody's talking about the web and e-commerce.
In Cerebral Valley, a nostalgic trend has re-emerged, the hacker home. For example, right behind me, in what used to be an archbishop's mansion, is now Hacker Fellowship Zero, a place where young techies reside together, living and breathing AI. I pay a visit to a Cerebral Valley startup. Hey, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Welcome to Korea HQ.
This house is where the core team of AI graphics startup Korea does nearly everything.
This is where we live and work. This is where sometimes people in here, literally at the party, you can see people from drinking to literally solving math equations on the whiteboard.
Co-founder and CTO Diego Rodriguez, originally from Spain, sleeps in the room right next to the CEO. And in the next room, their first hire has just set up his bed too.
If you're not able to deal with the core team, as in living together like a marriage for, I don't know, 1 year or something like that, how do you expect to deal with them during whole 10 years?
The night before, Korea held one of their monthly dinners, filling the house with about 40 AI innovators from other companies.
People from OpenAI, people from Google, people that used to be at DeepMind, people that are in Midjourney, all these AI companies in a single place, and they're all talking to each other. So the conversations that you have feel almost like cheating, oh my God, we have so much knowledge of what's happening in the industry, and this is what people are going to be talking about in the rest of the world in 3 to 6 months.
CEO and co-founder Victor Perez shows me how Korea's software allows users to type simple descriptions to train AI models that generate high-resolution images. Users have complete control of the pictures, which contain the finest details and textures down to the fur of a dog.
For anyone that plans to come here, I would say you need to think about this city as a place to work and a place to grind. Everybody's building something, so it's extremely interesting to talk with people because, yeah, everybody's into some crazy stuff.
While crazy may conjure up thoughts of drugs and alcohol mixed in with the startup life, Korea's founders point to their tower of LaCroix cans, noting that sparkling water is their beverage of choice. They believe the new era of Cerebral Valley AI startups has learned that staying healthy with a sound mind is the best way to optimize for transforming the world. Mark New, CGTN, San Francisco.
Well, Cerebral Valley is just one example of how attitude toward the work-life balance are changing. It's an especially important topic for millennials. The King's College of London recently publishing its latest study from the World Values Survey, saying only 14% of millennials surveyed said that work comes first. The majority agreed that achieving a work-life balance is more important. Some of the issues millennial and younger generations have with work include the expectation of always being on, time lost due to back-to-back meetings all day long, and the constant distraction of communication technology and open office floor plans. So, what we're seeing in a place like San Francisco's Cerebral Valley could potentially become the norm, perhaps sooner than we think. Okay, so for more perspective on this work-life balance, let's bring in Chris Dyer. He's a best-selling author, speaker, and remote work advocate. Chris, thanks very much. I see you're there at your house, working away very comfortably. Let's talk about this work-life balance, especially when people are living where they work. How can they break the time up? Like, this is my work time, this is the time I'm going to play with the kids, enjoy myself, do whatever.
Well, often we find what employees need is a different trigger. So when we go into an office and we then come home, we go on in our car, we get on a bus, we get on a train to come home, and there's a natural start and stop to work. We have our phones and we get pulled back into it, but there is that break. And when you work from home, we don't necessarily have that break. So We often, train our employees to shut their laptop, to close their office door. They need a new sort of physical thing to do to trigger our brains, hey, it's time to stop. Whether or not we're going to go back to our work later on in the day is different. Everyone's a little different, but we need a different trigger.
Chris, a couple of things kind of stood out in that survey that we talked about before coming to you. And people my age, I guess in many cases when they're dealing with younger workers, are more likely to be supervisors, be in charge in an office situation. So these people who grew up always going to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, always going home at 5 o'clock, and now see younger people getting their work done either at home, splitting their time up at home, in the office. How do you get past the mentality of people my age, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, who say, my generation got up, we walked 5 miles uphill both ways, and we liked it?
Yeah, I think that's been true since time immemorial, right? It's like every generation that's sitting at the end of that, sort of journey is saying it was harder when we did it, and we did it this way, and why does that group want to do it that way? It's all about trying to figure out what's the most important or what's the best way for workers at your company in that particular environment to do their best work. And for a lot of people, because technology and COVID and everything else kind of showed everyone what we could do, there's a lot of people that can do that work from home and they can do it very well, right? And this sort of shared pain of having to sit in 2 hours of commute isn't necessarily something we all need to be doing. Now, there are other jobs where we do need to be in the office, and we do need to collaborate, and we do need to be together. And so it's just a matter of sort of subjectively allowing employers to figure that out one person at a time.
Also in that survey, they talked about open spaces, shared spaces. I personally, I find that a very difficult environment to work in. Do a lot of millennials feel the same way?
Absolutely. So millennials make up now almost 75% of the workforce. So, they really have taken over. And I think you kind of mentioned earlier about they're changing perspectives. I mean, they've gotten older, they've gotten families, they've gotten mortgages, they've gotten, they are not the youngest group in the workforce anymore. So they're starting to see differences. They're starting to change, how they view work and how they're going to be, effective with their time for each job that they may have. Okay, I don't want to get canceled for this, but explain lazy girl jobs to me and quiet quitting. Isn't balance basically the bottom line of both of these concepts? I mean, they're two very different things. So I think one is a reaction to trying to be healthy up front. So the lazy girl jobs is sort of this slang term for, hey, can I go find a job where I am working to live? Right? I get a job, something I can do a great job at, and it's fixed amount of time, or I know I can go do my work. I don't have to be there, 9 to 5. I can do 4 hours here and 4 hours over there, but I can get my job done, and I don't have to be trying to, climb the corporate ladder or burn, the candle at both ends so that I can, be some superstar or whatever, which is really not the case for most workers anyways. Most people come in, they do their job, and they want to go home. And so that sort of that lazy girl thing is this idea that where do you go find a job that you can just work enough to live, right? That your job is not everything. And I think that's what we're seeing millennials sort of shifting from. That used to be live to work. Now they're going to do the work to live. The quiet quitting is more of a response to you were overworked. You're asked to do too much. Maybe your company did layoffs and they just gave you someone else's job and didn't give you any more compensation for it. And you are overworked. And so the quiet quitting is sort of a reaction to, I can't take it anymore. I don't think I can do all this work. This is too much for one person. And I'm going to stop. Right? I'm not going to tell them I'm stopping, but I'm going to kind of stop trying to do all the extra stuff. I have to ask you, does this kill self-starters? I mean, it sounds like people are saying, I'm going to do enough to get by. Or is there more to it? No, there's still going to be the group that wants to hustle, that wants to get to the top, and I don't think any of that has changed. All you're seeing now is just an articulation from a group of people that have always existed, which is I'm just going to do what I need to do to get by. And this often is a frustration for employers. And I've had to, with many of my clients, go in and remind them that not everyone can grow to go to be the CEO or be the boss or to be a manager. Some people are going to come into work and they're going to do a good job, but they don't have that, go-getter or rise to the top mentality. They just want to come in and do what they want to do. and be a good employee, but that's it.
Chris Dyer, can't thank you enough. Last week I learned about girl math. Now I've learned about lazy girl jobs. It's been fascinating. Thank you so much for your time.